shakeout. Now this is a common manoeuvre by professional money to get rid of you if they're bullish. Correct, Philip?
Yes, and they'll take every opportunity to do it, especially if there's some bad news.
And Tom, you used to like to shake out people, correct?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, I've
Yeah. You do it on bad news.
Yeah, John Shaler just mentioned, I saw you wrote it down, I think you or Tom wrote it down, but talking about the news and the media, it is a true thing. I use this statement. Mark Twain once wrote, if you do not read the newspaper,
Yes.
you are uninformed. But if you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed.
Yeah.
It's the same as watching the media, isn't it? That's true. But the shakeout is a manoeuvre. It's a wide spread down, closing on the middle or low, most often seen after a strong down move. Volume can be high, or especially important if it's ultra high. If this is in an uptrend, it's a very strong buy, as I'm going to show you shortly. Smart money have to buy at lower prices and will do anything to get the price down to buy more of the instrument they are accumulating. This will nearly always be seen on bad news and will often mark the next leg up of a trend, especially, as I said, if it's in an uptrend already. A shakeout can also be seen at market bottoms and is especially powerful if you have a selling climax in the background.
Yes.
Yeah. So here is...
Also, if at the bottom, if the shakeout actually has a new low below the selling climax,
yeah,
because that again will shake out further weak holders.
Yeah. Now this was the chart that Tom and I and you, we've got to it finally. We weren't quite sure here. Now this was the Microsoft chart, Tom, where we're in an uptrend. We get massive volume here at point A, which we'll see in a minute, and then the market goes up and up and up and up, but then it tries here to start rolling over and breaking out of its trend. And it's interesting that here, further up here, it actually marked the top, but they bought a lot here and they started to sell it further up. But here is point A on the Microsoft chart. Now we note here, this is a gap down day, probably on some news again. This is July 09, for anyone who trades Microsoft. It's so bullish, the next bar B is an immediate test. Now you don't see that very often, but that was very, very bullish. And then at bar C and at bar D, you get very clear example of testing again, and the entry there would have been on bar E. Why? Well, you've certainly, after this, you're making lower highs on the bar, and this bar here on E, lovely narrow spread, volume's very, very low compared to the previous bars. The next bar is up. You have strength in the background, you've had a couple of tests, and the market's rising, and that continued to go up. It's a very, very strong sign of strength. Yeah, sure, Brad. No worries, mate. So yeah, as you see here, when you see these ultra-high volume bars up or down, they mean something. They have significance, and especially if you're a stock trader, you want to be looking for the weeklies. If you see ultra-high volume in a weekly bar, oh my goodness, especially on the bottom, if we're in a... Now, at the moment, we're going to be looking at the opposite, aren't we? Because we're in a bull run. We're going to be looking for the end of a rising market. If this market's going to end, Tom Williams will be telling us. Because you're going to be looking for serious signs of weakness up at the top there, and it will probably be on good news.
It'd be on that bar.
Yeah, it'll be on that bar, absolutely, absolutely.
If you're lucky, it'll be a narrow spread.
Now, this is my favourite one of all time. Now, again, I did a YouTube video on this. Now, again, this is April of last year, 09, and we'd already seen heavy accumulation of the stock Goldman Sachs, but this time, around April, there was lots of talk about the banks again. Lots of negativity in January, February. But the market had begun to go up, and suddenly people said, oh, the banking sector seemed to be leading the way. We don't understand. And suddenly, on around this time, they said, oh, you know that TARP money that we needed, we're probably going to pay it back. We now know they paid their biggest bonuses they've ever had. But at the time, because human beings forget, all this nonsense was clouding your judgment unless you were a VSA trader or you're an insider. But here, I want you to look at the volume on this bar where the yellow down bar is, and look at this. This is absolutely massive. Nearly 80 million shares there traded on that day. We were in an uptrend. We'd broken out the uptrend, as you can see, and we were forced to come back down to the top of my trend channel, which, would you believe, acted as support, Philip, for the rest of that trade. It kept going up, and then we created a new channel. Now, what do you think the news here would have been, ladies and gentlemen? Type in. Would it be good news on the day or bad news? What do you think? Good news or bad news? Just type in. What do you think we would have seen here? Good news or bad news on that bar? Remember what Mark Twain told us? Let's just see if everybody's... Now remember, professional money, Janet. They want to distribute on good news. They want to buy on bad news. There's a clue for people. Yep, many of you got it. Yeah, Janet, I'll show you the news. US stocks, Wall Street sinks. Oh my goodness. Weak retail sales, Goldman offering. Worse than expected retail sales spur economic worries. It then talks about financial slide after Goldman Sachs's, and it talks about it. The news was terrible. It was absolutely... Janet says, got it, I'm getting tired. I know you're all getting a bit tired. We're getting tired, but we've got to persevere. We're nearly finished here. But it's a shakeout. It's a very strong shakeout. And in fact, you can see here, it's all about the financial sector. They're bullish financials, but the news is bearish. They use it to buy. When you see a shakeout like that, or bad news, and it's in an uptrend, it's a strong, strong buy. But the news will be fooling you. But of course, with the next bar up after that down bar, which I'll show you, which it was here, you know, and then it's tested here, that's a strong buy opportunity. And if you just take that away, that shakeout there is a very strong buy.